Could you let us know a little bit about your role as the VP of Social Commerce and Paid Media at Genni?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. My name is Itai Winter. I am the VP of Social Commerce and Paid Media here at Genni. Um, what that means is that I handle everything A to Z that is either paid media or social commerce. A little bit about Genni. We are a short form content company. Um, that means that everything that we do is in within that context, and that context lends itself really well to both of these aspects. Social commerce on one hand, social
Hmm.
commerce solely moved by either live video or short form content. There's no written media that is associated with social commerce, unless you're talking about Pinterest, but that's really not
Difficult one, that one.
considered, yeah, that's not really considered social commerce as much as Whatnot and TikTok Shop. And then paid media is used to generally amplify anything that is either live video or short form content. So that's
Got
what
you.
my team handles. Yeah.
That's cool. And so, you know, you've said you were acquired about, is it, you mentioned you've been acquired about 8, 9, 12 months ago. So who were you with before? What made them acquire you? Obviously, growing business.
Yeah, so I founded a company back in 2020 called Push Talk. I was promoting musicians specifically,
Hmm.
uh, and Jenny was in the business of promoting music mostly. So if we kind of like take a step back, back to like 2017, very quickly record labels learned that platforms like TikTok lend themselves really well to promoting music and breaking out new artists.
Hmm.
Songfluencer, which was one of the brands that were owned by Jenny, was one of the first ones to recognize that and turn that into an offering. Um, from here to there, a few years later, Songfluencer started expanding. All the while, my own company, PushTalk, started expanding on a different but similar model. We did have some overlaps, and then the owners of Jenny and I have kept in touch for many years. We would sometimes help out each other with different projects and clients, and I got super into TikTok Shop towards the tail end of 2023, which was basically a really kind of like interesting, eye-opening direction for me personally. And I decided to dive a little bit deeper into it, got into some conversations with the folks at Jenny, and then they found that this is kind of like the future of commerce.
What are the major shifts you're seeing in that world as it comes to industry trends?
Definitely a few things. The first thing is discovery. Folks are more open to discovering new products and solutions for their products through recommendations based off algorithms and based off of real content that real human beings create.
Hmm.
That means that unlike platforms like Amazon, where you search for specific keywords, for example, I'm looking to buy a new alarm clock, I will find that because I'm looking for a new alarm clock. No, with a platform like TikTok, if I am there at 3 a.m. and I'll wake up the next morning and I'm tired as hell and I'm searching something on TikTok on ways to wake up, eventually the algorithm is going to realize that I need a new alarm clock because my alarm clock is just not cutting it and I have like this really bad insomnia type situation. And this is a true story, unfortunately.
A lot of passion, I guess.
Yeah. So eventually I see a sunrise clock on TikTok Shop and I acquire it. through the platform without leaving the platform, which is
Mm.
an amazing feat within itself, technologically and operationally for all parties intended. So that is the number one shift we're seeing right now overall I think, in the way that customers discover
Hmm.
products, and on the flip side, in the way that sellers are selling products, whether it's a CPG or a snack. I'm not sure if you remember, a few years ago there were these freeze-dried Skittles, and freeze-dried candy overall exploded. So much so that it was everywhere online for a minute. And I think I was looking at it on TikTok Shop, and it would not leave me alone on TikTok Shop for a few months. And then I would get into, I went into a store. Here, I live in Nashville. I went to a Walgreens and I saw freeze-dried candy. And then I went to a Walmart the next week and I saw it in Walmart. And what we're seeing is these basically discovery-based trends that are going from the online space and into the retail space and are slowly pushing out some of these older brands.
Mm.
Um, Online retail brands are just having a hard time. The margins are super slim, and unless
Yeah,
you're really distributing on a retail level, it's going to be hard to compete. Yeah.
very true. Yeah. So I'm interested, how much has AI impacted you, your growth strategies, everything you're doing?
Um, a few different ways. Mostly on the paid media side of things, AI
Hmm.
um, it makes recognizing patterns a lot easier. Um, that's number one, and that's really important when you're buying media, is recognizing different patterns and different behaviors of the algorithm and of all sorts of different data sets. So when I go and buy media for specifically, let's say, a new song by Lord or a new
Hmm.
song by Mariah Carey, that hasn't happened in a long time, but let's say I'm working on that. I need to grab data from Spotify and from Apple Music and from YouTube, across everything that Mariah Carey is doing or Lord is doing.
Mm.
I also need to grab my paid media data, and kind of do a cross reference and see, are we being effective? And if we are, what is driving the most conversion streams, consumption that we're looking for, and then looking at all sorts of other different data sets. For example, how many UGCs are created per day?
Mm.
And is it our ad that is moving the needle, or is it an organic moment that's moving the needle? So that on the paid media side of things, absolutely. Within social commerce and kind of like the interaction it has with paid media. TikTok Shop recently actually X'd all of the ads that are not like AI based ads. So you can no longer run ads in the way that we're used to, where we're setting up a single ad and driving traffic around that specific ad. We can now only run GMV Max ads, which are ads that kind of get mass authorization from creators, and they self-optimize based off of a specific ROI that you indicate for those ads. It is a lot less tedious in the setup. It is a lot more tedious work if you're trying to optimize and maximize those ads. Um, so more management work, less setup work. I would say the AI is probably a few months, if not a few years, from being more impactful than a human media buyer. I think that I mean, if we look at
Mm.
it in a span of time, it would take a media buyer 2, 3 years to become a master of the work, um, or of that profession.
Yeah.
And if an AI can do that and become at least 90% of my level, or of a level of someone who is, let's say, a media buyer with 3 years of experience, and
Mm,
it takes 2 years to get to 90% of that. I think that we're,
bargain.
yeah, we're in for quite a shift.
Yes. So if you look at what you're doing at the moment, what are the things that are working well, and what are the things that you still find hard or you struggle with?
Good question. I think the very first thing that we're talking about is building a story for
Hmm.
every brand that we're working with, building that story and matching it with the right creators, and having those creators tell your story in the way that they are going to tell a story. So for example, if you have a brand that is country music oriented brand, for let's say clothing, you can't go to a bunch of random creators that have nothing to do with country music and tell them, hey, I want you to drop these 5 talking points. It's never going to come off
Yeah.
organic or authentic. You need to be really authentic with these things. And especially today when people are much more aware of that. So that's really, really important. And that is the thing I think that a lot of people find very, very challenging. There are two other very challenging things. Is that the first one is the level, the scale of content that you need to be producing today. If I was a seller today or an e-commerce owner, business owner, volume of content is critical. You can no longer rely on just you as the brand producing one video every day and dropping it on your socials. You need to be able to produce multiple videos, unfortunately, for that. And you need to have enough videos come out about your product from different types of creators, telling your story in different types of variations, and pressing those pressure points or pain points that your product addresses regularly. Um, and that needs to happen all the time. So that there's a logistical challenge there with sending out products, figuring out how many you can send and who to send it to, and not going over and then, okay, did this creator post or did they not post? All of these things are logistical problems that we try to solve here.
Hmm.
Um, so that's the first product problem. And then the second problem that a lot of sellers and brands I think are having is figuring out the logistics overall of their own company and what happens when you do have a viral moment. How do we set up for, yeah, we sell $1,000 a day on average, but then we'll have a couple of videos go viral on a Thursday, and by Monday we sold $80,000 worth of product. What do we do then to maintain that momentum? How can we keep feeding that beast? And how can we keep scaling the business in a way that's sustainable on viral moments? Yeah.
That seems quite difficult. So you mentioned earlier that obviously attribution was part of what you talked about in terms of knowing where things come from. And and then you've got this challenge of almost not predicting, but reacting very quickly to an explosive event. What kind of metrics do you watch or monitor or manage by?
When I look at creators,
Yeah.
specifically in finding that right creator and figuring out, okay, how can I know if this creator is going to drive, if they're going to be able to drive enough revenue um, to account for the media value that they're
Yeah.
creating, etc. Um, I look at their GMV, which is available on TikTok Shop. So that's one thing that I look at. I also look at the GMV in that particular category and subcategory. It's a
Hmm.
little bit more difficult to do that. Um, and then I look at how often do they post, and how often do they make sales from those posts. So we'll need to look at, let's say we have a creator that makes videos about fragrances, like yeah, like um, somebody selling perfume. We need to figure out, okay, is every 15th post is making sales, or is every second post is making sales? So we need to figure that out. And then on top of that, there's the creative level. Does that creator make sense vibe-wise? Like, do
Hmm.
I have a scent that is intended for people who are in the hip hop community? I'm obviously not going to go to um, a white suburban mom who only posts videos about Jesus, about
Mm.
that specific brand. I'm probably going to find creators who are associated with hip hop culture and also have all these metrics within that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So, knowing that we know a lot about now, what do you think the biggest things, what the biggest challenges for you to have a good 12 months going ahead? And what are you expected to do in the next 12 months?
Um, in the next 12 months, we will probably be onboarding a lot of new clients at Genni, um,
Hmm.
and grow our creator network. Those are the two biggest challenges for us as a company, as most agencies. It's getting clients, scaling those clients, and then vice versa, I think, like, and then
Yeah.
repeat, repeat, repeat. Um, those are kind of like the two biggest challenges. I am very excited to see where TikTok Shop grows towards in terms of like a product, etc. I think that it's going to become um, more complicated and more nuanced as things are progressing. I think that brands are going to be investing bigger and bigger budgets, especially we're going to see some pretty big brands getting onboarded. Frito-Lay's, for example, already got onboarded into TikTok Shop. That's a pretty major brand. They're still kind of like playing with the in the little leagues right now, but
Hmm.
you decide to invest a lot of money into the platform, it's going to be very difficult for smaller brands who have maybe three or four marquee products to compete with a company like Fritos. Um,
Yeah.
so we're going to see more of that, more bigger brands coming in with major activations, dropping in a lot of money, and we're going to have to be reactive to that on both the front of, okay, we're going to have to help those big brands get onboarded into the platform, but also make sure that the smaller brands that are kind of like growing through that platform and using that platform as a major kind of catalyst for growth, that they still have enough space. Um, so that's a major challenge that we have, and then keep leveraging AI and
Hmm.
all of the AI systems that exist. Right now, AI videos are not super duper. Um, they're not super duper effective when it comes to TikTok Shop or creating UGC, but who knows? These things move very, very quickly. Within 6 months, we could be looking at like a whole ecosystem where AI videos are being churned out in a breakneck speed and breakneck and great quality. So who knows?
No, very much true. It's going to be a fascinating 12 months. And underpinned by, as you said, not just by AI, but big players deciding to go into the platforms that they haven't predominantly been in. Uh, the pressure's driving them to do it. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that I saw. I was really surprised when I first saw, I think, Samsung get in on TikTok, not on TikTok Shop, but on TikTok. I think it was like pretty like early in 2020, and they got in with a massive activation. And since I've been buying media on the platform, I like figured it was mid five, mid eight figures. this is a massive activation and media buy for a company to come in and buy media for 5 days on that level. It's a big lift. And it was kind of like the first one of many. We've seen Coca-Cola get on it. We've seen like bigger companies. There's just dropping a lot of money on discovery-oriented platforms. And I think that that's where really the internet as a whole, as a culture,
Mm.
is growing. Um, yeah, we have algorithmically led echo chambers, but people also yearn for discovery. And I think that's a big cultural shift that we've seen since 2020. Like just that trend is not slowing down. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I do appreciate your time today. So thank you so much for doing the podcast for us. And I do really appreciate all your efforts.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. Thank you so much for having me. I